After the initial install of field level and data security, a lot of time it happens that new changes are done, objects are being replaced, and things like that. I want to go through some of the scenarios in that case. The first thing is if I actually wanted to add more tables to the field level and data security. And to do that one, I'll go to the field level and data security, and then I will look at source tables. And right now, I have 7 source tables in here, but I don't have anything on the purchase side, and I would really like to add the vendor and vendor ledger entries and so on. So I will need to add the tables to my source table setup. I also like the purchase document, so that will be the purchase header and the purchase line I would add in there. As I add this one, my original source code analysis in here tell me that how many pages I actually added in here. And I will later show how to update this one to add additional pages if they get added later. But right now, these objects or pages don't have any changes to them that is necessary for the field level and data security to work in here. So I'm going to do that one. To run the implementation engine, I would need to export the objects to a text file. And to do that one, we could export all tables and pages. It will run perfect, and it just takes a little longer than if we actually only export the needed one. There's a function up here that uses a field in NAV where I can basically go in and say, I want all the objects that are needed for implement changes, and I need all of them in here. So even if my license as a customer don't allow all of them, I can actually mark them. I can also say only the licensed one. So if I have my own developer license as a customer, maybe I haven't purchased the complete application, and there would be some objects I didn't have license to, it can be used for marking that one. In my case, I want to mark all the objects. It's using a field called DBM Table No, and I can see in here all the objects that are needed has been marked with DBM Table Number equal 3 in there. The DBM Table Number is kind of an unknown field in the version list in here. So if I actually go here and want to filter, and I do look up in the field, I will see it's a DBM Table Number. This field was really only used in the native database, and it was only used for table data also. So it always blanked for objects as this one in here. So it's really no problem that we're using that one. Right now I'm working with a test license in here, like a Cronus test license, so I won't be able to actually export objects to text. So I want to change to a partner license. And that's one of the things where when you want to add more tables to field level security, you want to have your partner license to be doing this one. As a customer, you typically means you need to have your partner help you assist with the initial install of this. So I'll go open up my database again, and then I will filter on my DBM table number, being 3 in here, as it said. So I can see all the pages and all the tables in here. We only need to read some settings from the tables. We're not going to change anything, but in the pages, that's where we're going to write the code in here. So if I go here and say, okay, I want to export these ones, and I will export them to an install number 1. Always export them both to a prop file and to a text file, because if it happens that during the installation something can't be exported and imported from text, for example, you can always revert one object back, or it won't compile, for example. As I exported those objects, I can now go back, select my file. This file is currently on a local drive in here, but that's one thing that is important, since the service tier is going to read the file and also create the output file. This one needs to be placed in a location where the service tier can see it. Typically, it's a UNC path with the right permission for the service account to actually read and write files in there. But I will select my install number 1, and then I will run my implement changes in code in here. It goes through and read all the tables, and it will go through all the pages. And if the pages need to be modified, either new fields was added on them or it's complete new page that have no code on it, it will actually put it in the output file that is the end result in here. And I can see in here that none of the tables were changed. 3 code units were modified. There's actually 3 code units in the easy security range, and then 48 pages in here. In total, it took 22 seconds. So I need to go back to the development environment, import my install out file in here, and I can see it's only a subset of the other objects, and I'll go import that one. Just to take a look at what actually was changed in here, I want to remove my filter for DBM Table Number and look at all the ones that are uncompiled, because when you import from text, everything shows up uncompiled. We have these 3 code units that are used to both store some values, but also to get some functions that we're using. And then for each of the pages, code has been added in here. In general, the code that is added in here is very generic. There's a lot of variables, all starting with ESACC, and these variables has been assigned to these properties and the fields in here. Same thing goes for actions and so on. There's also a trigger in here that allows us to apply this one when it opens up. If I make this one a little bigger here, I'll see that on these objects, the date and time is exactly the same. And that's actually one of the things that can be used if you have a development database, a test environment, and a production environment. You can run this install in the test environment, kind of the middle, and then only move the objects to the production environment based on the date and time. So you don't need to import text objects in production. You can actually do that in your development environment if the objects are a copy of it. So all these objects now are compiled in here, and I can basically go back now and apply field level security to my vendors and my purchase documents in here. One thing that was also created is field level security codes called read-only in here for each of these tables, so I don't have to do that one. And it's marked as a default, so it automatically is created. So basically that finished the install. And if you're not really sure if you have all the code necessary, you can always run this process again in here. So if I go in here and say I will set my DBM table number for all objects needed for implementation in here, and it marks it now with number 4 out here. I can go back here and say, okay, I want to filter on my DBM table number being 4 now. And again, I get the same pages and the same tables in here. And I will export them to an install 2. And then go back to my field level and data security, find my new file, and then run the implement changes in code function. Again, it goes through, it verifies that all the code necessary is in there, and if something is missing, it will actually write the code in here for those features. But I can see here 0 pages what actually modified in here. Only the 3 code units are always being modified, and they're in the easy security range of objects. So you can run it as many times as you want. It's no harm done if you do that. One thing where you need to maybe rerun this one again is if you actually have added new fields to a page, the code of course don't exist in there. So let's go make a change in here to my customer card, for example. And right now I have name, but I don't have name 2 in here. So I'll go ahead and add name 2 in here. And if I go run my field level security for my customer card in here, first I can run the customer card. I can now see the name 2 being in here. If I go and take a look at setting up field level security in here, and I'll do a field level security code, a new one, it should be for the customer. I'll just call it no field access. And I'll, for every page down here, instead of making the page view, I'm actually going to make it editable, but then go and change every field to default be viewing here. So I leave the page editable, but in general, I want to show every field by default should be read-only here. And what I will see when I apply this to my user is that my name 2 field, the code don't exist in here. So for 18, I'll have my no field access in here. And as I now open up my customer card, I see that every field blanks out fine, except actually the name field. Contact out here, by the way, also is editable, and that's actually because the Microsoft code controls that code after we actually have done it. There's a way of disabling that one, basically replacing with our variables in there, or just changing the code that makes it field editable. But to make name 2 work, again, I would have to run the installation process again here. So go back to my field level security, set the table number or DBM table number and all the objects I need. And it's now number 5 I should filter on. And it will be install number 3. I will go select that file and implement the changes in code up here. And again, it goes through the file. It reads all the pages that are in there and see if there's missing code, and then it would actually write that code in here. I can see only one page was changed out of my 143. And if I go to the development environment, I can import my installed 3 out here. And filter on the one that I modified. No. No. Compile. No. I'll see again my 3 code units and of course the customer card in here. And again, all of them get the same date and time. So that's how you would move from a test environment to a production environment if you don't want to rerun this engine in the production environment. So this one was adding a field, and if I go, of course, here and take a look at it, I will now look at my customer. Now the name 2 field can be controlled like before. The other thing that can happen is that new objects are added that shows the same table. And I'm going to just add a new page in the system that will show the customer table. So I'll go in here and make a new page. It should just be a list page. And I'll have number, name, and the 2 address fields. And then I will finish that one. As I now save this one, I'll call it, it's 50,000. If I go get rid of that filter and try run my 50,000 object in here, I'll see that this one is a list, and I can actually edit this list and change it, even if my field should not be in there. So to get this one running, I really need two different things in here. First of all, I need to let Easy Security know about my new object, and you do that by doing the source code analysis. And then, of course, you need to run the function to implement the changes in here. So let's go back to the field level and data security. And the first thing I want to do, I want to have a source code analysis for all objects in here. And as I run that one, it will mark all the objects necessary. And it now put table number 6 in here, DBM table number. So let's go filter on those. And for the field level security, we would need tables and pages. In the case of classic client, we would need forms also. But this one is source code analysis number 1, and I'll just export all these forms to a text file. One of the reasons to use this marking function, by the way, is that you can set up object properties for objects that don't compile or you don't want to touch, for example. So you can skip certain objects when you're running this installation engine also. And I can now select that file, the source code analysis number 1 down here, and get the relations from source code. And it asked me if I want to do that one. Normally, you would actually also run this source code analysis for roles and logins. And I could use that data, but I actually want to scan the file that I actually exported in here at this time. So one of the things, only objects that are changed would actually be enough to export. So I could have exported only the one that were modified, that have a date and time later, or a version list, if I was totally sure that all those things were actually maintained correctly. But I can see now that I have the source code analysis finished. If I look at my source table setup for the customer table now, I would see that Easy Security now knows that I have a page 50,000 customer list short down here also. So if I now mark the objects that I need to implement changes, it will mark one more object for me. If that means my extra table in here. So I'll go in and say now I need number 7 in here, and I can see my modified customer card, my new page is in here, and of course my tables up there. So I'll go here and install this one, or export them to install number 4. And go back to my field level data security, select the file of course, and then implement the changes in code. I should of course in all these cases have exported the FOB file also. I just skipped that one. The main reason for exporting the FOB file is of course you can pick a single object when you restore from it, and it already is compiled at that point. So I can see one page was changed, and I go import my install number 4 out, look at compiled no. Normally you should also filter on today's date, because you could have old objects in here that was not compiled anyway. But I can see my customer list short was in here. I compile these ones. If I now run my customer list short, as I edit the list, everything in here stay non-editable. I can't change anything any longer. So now the code was implemented for that one also. So basically the process for implementing code is, it can't hurt to do it as many times as you want. So even when you have a test and production environment, you can always export the text that you get into production. And if the objects were right, you should see no changes at all being in the modified object. All these changes that were added in here is kind of causing a problem if you actually want to upgrade, because now it's causing a lot of luck and a lot of potential conflicts with roll-up updates or even updates to future versions. And that's where actually Easy Security has a functionality to remove all these code changes in here. And first of all, I want to either I can export only the one that are needed, but I could actually also export all the complete set of objects in here. So that's what I'm actually going to do at this case. I want to mark all the objects, and I had all of them now marked with number 8 in here. I go back here, filter for my DBM table number being 8. I have all the pages and all the tables in the system in here. So I'm going to export this one to a delete code number 1 in here. The reason to export all of them could be that the source table setup would be wrong, and in that way you maybe don't have all the correct source code analysis needed. So when you export all of them, you know you're going to get all of them in here. So at this point, I want to select my delete code number 1 in here, and I want to, under actions, go to advanced and use this function to delete changes in coding. It goes through the same process. It will read the tables as I exported them in here. As it gets to the pages, it will search for the code that was uniquely added for Easy Security's field level data security. As you notice, the variables were all called ESACC underscore, and that's actually the whole key to removal. So don't create a variable that is called ESACC underscore and something else, because Easy Security is going to remove that one when you run this delete process in here. It will take a little while here to go through that one. There's quite a lot of code here, and it's actually not updating, it seems like. But with the pages it goes through, but you'll see that it should say that I should have a little more than 150 pages being modified, and all the code should actually be gone from those pages at the time when this process finishes in here. So I can see in here my code units modified, 142 pages had code removed from them, and I need to go and import my delete code 1 out file in here. Again, this one only contains pages and the 3 code units to have matching code in here now. And as I'm done compiling, the only change to this object would be the date and time in here. So let's go here and look at compiled. No. I have all the pages in here, and if I look, for example, at my vendor card as I looked before, I used to have a lot of variables. They're all gone now. For each field where I had properties, it's all gone and replaced with how the code was to begin with in here. So in that case, you can remove all the code changes. You can use an automated upgrade tool like the Mergetool, for example. It will ignore date and time changes. That will be the only thing left in this object. And as you are done upgrading to the latest rollup, as you put the objects into your test environment, all you do is just run the install wizard, implement the code changes, and you're basically done again. And all the code is back as it was before, actually. So the objects compile fine. And if I now, of course, go to my customer card, nothing works any longer for field level security because I just took all the code away in here. All my actions are back. Every field is editable. But this one is basically the 2 functions to implement and to delete code changes. Both functions require access to export and import from text, and it can be done with a customer that has purchased the 7200 module application designer. Else it's typically a one-time task that the partner assists with when installing field level and data security.